Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So it is that time of the month again when an update is probably closely looming in the background for Gran Turismo 7. And it's that time of the month where I basically talk about my suggestions for updates going forwards. And then, well, I'll take your suggestions down in the comments below and bring out a community wish list over the coming days. So be sure to let me know if there's anything I haven't mentioned that you want to see within GT7 to put forward to Polyphony or whoever else is watching, then let me know in the comments below. So let's get into it with the kind of main point, which has actually had a bit of news about it recently. Bible engine swaps and special parts. Now, we did see a tweet from Nenkai, I believe at the start of this month, maybe the end of last one, very close to the previous update, basically talking about that this is a thing they are looking into as a way of being able to either buy them or kind of create them. So I don't know if it would be a kind of trade-in kind of thing, so maybe you kind of get rid of one car, you can pull the engine and stuff, or they'll just straight up be buyable. As we all know by now, they do have a price attached to them for engine swaps and special parts, so I'm wondering if it'll just be, you know, a case of just buying it. Now, Nenkai did mention this would come in a recent update. However, I think we're going to have a very similar situation to what we did with selling cars, where it kind of initially gets announced previous to a few updates, and then all of a sudden it'll just come out of the blue. I think back in November when we did get the selling cars feature, nobody expected it to come from there. I don't even think Nenkai himself expected it to come. It just came, and it was a very, very good way of actually doing it. One thing I can commend Polyphony for in terms of the selling car is the fluctuating prices and all that kind of stuff is actually fantastic. It's really much more detailed and much more fairer than I think we all first imagined, and hopefully it's kind of the same with these engine swaps and parts. So definitely this is something I hope they implement very, very soon, if not in this next update, but that may be wishful thinking. But it does seem that after months of complaining and moaning for it over the internet, it does seem that there, you know, is a bit of movement in kind of this situation. One of them that, again, we've kind of been all talking about for the longest time is endurance events, and this one I've not really heard anything on. I don't know if there's any more plans to put endurance events in. Who actually knows? But in all honesty, I'm going to add a little bit extra to this: multi-class. I honestly think this game is crying out for multi-class in it. It's a fantastic way of racing. If the grids were bolstered back up to 20 players plus again, then in all honesty, this would be absolutely awesome. Maybe, you know, 10 Group 1 cars up against 10 Group 3 cars and stuff, and they're all in their own little battle. This is something that is in the likes of Grid Legends, obviously in a lot of other racing games they do multi-class and stuff, and obviously it's a real world discipline with the likes of WEC and stuff like that. So hopefully this game would get something like that at least in the future. I'm not necessarily saying this could come, but in all honesty, this is basically a wish list for just me personally, obviously before the community one tomorrow. And I definitely think Gran Turismo 7 would do absolute wonders with a multi-class racing system, considering how many different types of cars there are in each class. And then obviously to top that off, endurance races. I think we all know this one by now. An endurance race, at least most of the tracks would be fantastic, just to kind of, you know, make use of those tracks that really do get overlooked. The likes of, you know, Bathurst or Mount Panorama, whatever you want to call it, does seem to get massively overlooked, and it's crying out for a longer race considering some of the races they have there. Same with the likes of Monza, you know, all these big famous tracks that almost seem kind of left in the dust, you know, the likes of Interlagos as well. So endurance racing, or at least longer races rather than these kind of, you know, short little races we get every kind of update or so, that are there just purely to pad out numbers, giving us some meaning to actually go there with decent prices and decent payouts would be a massive plus for this game. Like I said, this is another thing I've been absolutely crying out for the longest time, and I know you guys have as well. And there's no real kind of news around it or any real kind of known plans to actually do this, but hopefully we will be proven wrong at some point down the line. Now, this is one I've touched on in the last previous few updates, so before, you know, an update comes. Car personalization. This is one that I've been kind of thinking on for a while now, and I think I've figured out another way I would like this to kind of be evolved. So not only would I like the likes of, say, weight reduction to kind of change the inside of a car. So if you've got, say, a road car and you want to do that whole built not bought kind of vibe, say if we've got something like a Mark 1 Golf GTI or whatever you call them where you're locally from, if you want to kind of weight reduce it, make it a full-blown track car, you start seeing kind of the more interior parts kind of just thrown off depending on what stage you're on. I know this would take a ton of work probably considering how detailed these cars are, but I think it would be absolutely fantastic for the road cars to get that kind of love, so you can almost get that kind of track car vibes. You've bought a road car and you've just turned it into basically a full-blown track day machine. I think it'd be absolutely awesome. I believe Need for Speed Shift originally had this, where you may have kind of bought road cars, and as you kind of put parts on it, it basically transformed itself into a full-blown race car. I'm pretty sure I do remember that game having it. And as well, another thing I kind of like was, say, like if we're in Brand Central and we're kind of buying a brand new car from the dealership, having interior options. Now this is something that's in the Test Drive Unlimited games and such. I believe some of the crew games did have this with some of their models as well, where like you could get the other optional extras for these cars. So I don't know, let's say we go and buy a Maserati and we don't like the default interior, we can maybe have different stitching, just kind of more details like this. I really think if this is a game surrounding cars and car culture and the beauty of vehicles, definitely having these kind of options would be absolutely fantastic, and just give a bit more of a personal touch to some of the cars we're purchasing in GT7. I mean, in all honesty, I wouldn't see this working for, say, something like a used car. Obviously, a used car, you kind of get what you're given. It's a second-hand vehicle after all, or however many owners it's got. But definitely something in terms of the Brand Central cars and more new cars that, come out of the dealership in, certain paint jobs that you want to pick, fresh, no miles on them. Certainly think something like maybe an interior customization option and such will be fantastic, and absolutely just give these cars a little sprite and a bit more personality to them, and kind of make them more personal to the buyer or the player. Next up is something surrounding sport mode. Now, we've all known the typical way of doing sport mode is daily race A, B and C, and I certainly feel the possibility of a daily race D and a daily race E could really shake things up in the way that, let's say daily race D is your go-to endurance race, so possibly 30 minutes plus, up to maybe an hour, maybe two. I know it'd be a lot of work, but certainly for those of us that absolutely love endurance racing like myself personally and want those more strategic battles, this would be a fantastic thing. As much as I really do enjoy some of the daily race Cs, they just almost feel like they're just kind of compacted into a 20-minute session, and then that's kind of your lot. You're making a pit stop after 10 minutes. The tyre wear and the fuel use is kind of usually boosted up to kind of, simulate a longer race, but actually doing a longer race would definitely be an awesome way to kind of strategize. I know there is kind of the risk of people may drop out the lobby in a longer race and such, but there is supposed to be a penalty there of deranking you if you do this. So let's say if you're in a A-rated lobby plus, then obviously you're going to get people that are more dedicated to it. I just think it would be a fantastic idea for something like a daily race D to be a proper full-blown endurance. And again, if this game ever did welcome multi-class, this would be a fantastic place to do it in an online setting with rankings and kind of all that good stuff, having these separate positions for, say, a group 3 and a group 1 and such, instead of just going over all overall positions. And maybe a daily race E would be kind of more for the cars that don't kind of get the loving that they should. This is something that I've mentioned about the key cars that we've got this week, mainly the Daihatsu Copen, where they just don't get enough attention within the game. Things like Super Formulas, they kind of come once every 6 months or so. Just have this kind of reserved for those cars that players really want to try out, maybe the oddball classes, like I said, like key cars and stuff, that could have their own little kind of race and stuff each week. Again, rotate it between the likes of classic cars, key cars, all those kind of ones that don't get a look in, over the usual kind of group 4, group 3, group 2 kind of like. So yeah, certainly maybe a couple of extra daily races without going too over the top and kind of making it too spread out for the player base would be a fantastic thing, and that certainly feel would kind of add to the authenticity of sport mode, as well as allowing those people that may only play multiplayer online to kind of have a reason to go and purchase some more of these oddball cars and test out cars maybe they wouldn't usually. And the last point I'm going to touch on in terms of what I would wish for this update or recent updates would certainly be a GT League return. So if you've not played a Gran Turismo game maybe previous to GT7, which I know most of you have, in all honesty, the GT League was fantastic. It really was well set out with beginner, intermediate, professional and all that kind of good stuff, where you kind of worked your way through a ladder and the events got easier to harder, you know, so on and so forth, maybe longer events, more powerful cars and stuff, and you really felt like you was kind of working your way up through a ladder of events. You know, you start out with something like the Clubman Cup before kind of going into what would kind of be the super formulas in this game towards the end for a proper, you know, kind of championship kind of style battle across some of these tracks. And I certainly think GT7 is crying out for that. Now there is kind of the downside that I think the cafe menu is just far too implemented into this game at this point. The whole kind of single player of this game almost relies upon it entirely, bar a few events that we get. So I don't know if the option's really there, but if they're going to keep the cafe menu, certainly bring more of these kind of, I guess, events in, or just get rid of it entirely. I think a lot of people would massively prefer GT League over GT cafe menus. In all honesty, I don't think the cafe menu works half as well as what Polyphony was expecting it to. I don't think it's really, you know, been something that a lot of players have enjoyed with their time with GT7, especially those that only bought it for the single player portion. It honestly felt like a tutorial to the rest of the game, and the rest of the game just wasn't there. And I think that is the main problem with the cafe menu, whereas GT League just felt like it went on for time and time again, and kind of proves that even with the likes of GT Sport, it can be done with a fairly quick turnover and it can be added to over time. This is certainly something that they need to look into and hopefully bring back if this is a game that they are wanting to kind of treasure for a longer period of time than, you know, what may have allowed them to, you know, 15-20 years ago, where a game was kind of released in the state it was in and kind of just left in. There is the opportunity to update games these days, and we have seen a lot of games that kind of pride themselves on a kind of update service that have received some major overhauls over time. So it's not like Polyphony couldn't do it. You know, we've seen games have entire UI changes, entire format changes, from like pay to free to play and all that kind of stuff. So it's not saying that Polyphony can't do it. It possibly is possible for them, but I said the only thing that makes me doubt this is just how deeply implemented that cafe menu is currently within GT7. So that is going to be it from me today. I just wanted to get my personal wish list across of just some things that have kind of been going around in my mind every time I jump on GT7. Oh, this could improve it, that could improve it. So don't forget to let me know yours down in the description, down in the comment section below, because in all honesty, I really do like reading them. I like to see what you guys want brought to the table. I want to see what other players are wanting, and I will put them together, the top rated ones, in a community wish list over the next couple of days. I'll let them build up. I'll also have my Discord where you can put your suggestions forward as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. Turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. Upload GT7 and motorsport content each and every day for your viewing pleasure. And yeah, big thank you to you all recently for your support. It does absolutely mean the world to me. I know it's kind of been a bit of an up and down month, but I'm hoping to, you know, get slowly back into this groove of doing YouTube. So yeah, in the description down below I'll have my Twitter if you want to kind of get in touch with me there, or my Discord if you kind of want to meet like-minded people or just kind of chat with me there. I am going to be more active on that soon. Again, I kind of just took some time away from all that stuff. I also have my leagues in there as well, so if you want to join in with that, I will have my website launching fairly soon for others to join in. So yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you all later on. Have a fantastic day, guys. Peace.